It's now my pleasure to introduce you to today's commencement speaker, who is one of our outstanding faculty members. Dr. Joel Hyer is a historian and very popular with his students. He also serves as chairman of our Department of Communication and Social Sciences and is on the graduate faculty. Because of Dr. Hyer's expertise in U.S. Native cultures, he's the director of Chadron State's American Indian Studies program. He has several publications to his name, including a scholarly article that was nominated for an award sponsored by the Army Historical Foundation. Dr. Hyer is a native of Los Angeles County. Prior to joining the Chadron State faculty, he taught history courses at the University of California at Riverside, San Diego State University, and California State University at San Marcos. In 1999, he received a doctorate from the University of California at Riverside with a major in Native American history and minors in 20th century U.S. history and colonial Latin American history. Dr. Hyer, we're so pleased to have you here today to deliver the commencement address. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Joel Hyer.
Thank you, President Park. As I was getting ready this morning, I was reflecting upon when I earned my master's in history, and the commencement speaker was none other than U.S. Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. And then I thought, wow, these graduates here are stuck with me. So I think it's a little too late to ask for your money back. Apologize, I'm not a U.S. Supreme Court Justice, but well, good morning. Let me be one of the first to congratulate each of the graduates on this tremendous accomplishment. Believe me, I know a bit about what you've been through. The long hours, the sleepless nights, the seemingly endless assignment revisions. I felt like I almost needed therapy at the end of my PhD program. Perhaps I still do. When asked by President Park to speak to you today, I began to think, what could I impart to such a group that might be valuable to them? I quickly realized that this is a very talented group and that you may have earned quite a few A's during your graduate program. When I was in college, the A's that I earned never caused reflection in me. Instead, it was the B's that I earned on occasion that caused me to think. And so this morning, I'm leaving you with 4 B's for your consideration as you continue your journey through life. Happily, these B's won't affect your graduate program GPA in the least. The first B is to be bold. Let me take you back to the 1750s. I love when historians say that, right? Let me take you back. It's like I just acquired some time machine on eBay, right? That'd be awesome, by the way. Let me take you back to the 1750s, to the French and Indian War. England, as you might be aware, was fighting the French and their Native American allies for control of the Ohio River country and future eastern Canada. In the first few years, from the English perspective, the news was all bad. England lost every significant confrontation. What would you do at that point? You couldn't just go to your bedroom, draw the blinds, and down 10 pounds of fig Newtons. They hadn't been invented yet. Fortunately, the British government had the sense to appoint a new war minister, William Pitt, an individual who exuded confidence. Appearing before Parliament, he uttered the following immortal words: "I know that I can save England, and that no one else can." Being bold, Pitt ordered the English Navy to cut off French reinforcements and supplies to North America, gave command to young men of ability, took the war into enemy territory, and had the colonies involved in making war decisions. And guess what? England won every major confrontation after that and won the war. There's an English proverb that says, "A smooth sea never made a skillful mariner." In other words, if the seas of life are rough, or in Nebraska, if it's windy, we get those on occasion, don't we? Be strong, be bold, push through. Don't wallow in self-pity about how unfair life is. Instead, stand tall. Don't be afraid to fail. After all, failure is not fatal. Charles Kettering, American inventor and holder of 140 patents, once said, "It doesn't matter if you try and try and try again and fail. It does matter if you try and fail to try again." I think Kettering, as an inventor, was speaking from experience. B number 2, be creative. Let me take you to another war in another time, World War I. Of course, they called it the Great War back then. They didn't know there was going to be a sequel, right? Very 20th century, like there's always sequels. In August 1914, the Germans were driving relentlessly toward Paris. They were less than 40 miles away by the beginning of September. That's when French troops made a last-ditch stand at the River Marne. It seemed almost certain the French would be crushed and their capital city captured. There were 6,000 soldiers in Paris that could help make the difference, but no way to get them to the front. What would you do in that situation? Well, one of the generals realized if they could mobilize the taxi cabs of Paris to carry the soldiers, they could do the job. The taxis could each hold 5 men. Each taxi made the 75-mile round trip to the front twice in order to bring up the soldiers. The soldiers were rushed to the front, and their presence helped stiffen resistance to the Germans. In what history has come to call the miracle of the Marne, the French army held firm. Paris was saved, thanks in part to the valor of her cab drivers and thanks to a very creative French general. Sir Ken Robinson has written a fascinating book on creativity entitled The Element. In that work, Robinson offers numerous examples of how individuals, through creativity, found their talents and in many cases influenced the world for the better. He refers to the element as the place where the things we love to do and the things we are good at come together. Instead of asking, "How intelligent are you?" he prefers to ask, "How are you intelligent?" I like that. He also said it this way, "Open your mind to new possibilities and new experiences, and do things you haven't done before, because often being creative is finding a new medium of expression for yourselves, and the people who achieve most, I think, have found their medium. They are in their element, and they love the thing they do. So open yourself out to new experiences and question the things you take for granted," end quote. The third B is to be optimistic. I mean, really, who wants to hang out with a pessimist? Not really. People often want to associate with individuals who are hopeful, who lift and build others, who view the glass as half full, not half empty. Did you know that optimistic people live longer? That's kind of cool. According to WebMD, optimistic people have a 55% lower risk of death from all causes and a 23% lower risk of heart-related death than pessimists. Another benefit is positive expectations yield greater performance results than negative expectations. This is known as the self-fulfilling prophecy. Have you ever noticed that in your own lives? If you think you can, chances are you can. And if you think you can't, chances are you can't. So, one last point with being optimistic. Why be pessimistic when you can be optimistic? Optimism and pessimism are apparently learned behaviors. We may not always have control over what happens to us, but we can always control how we view things. The final B is be mindful of others. In my view, this is the most important of the 4 B's. After all, isn't life and everything in it about relationships? It's always about the human interactions. Don't ever forget that. It's been said that people may forget what you've said to them, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Henry Cloud, a clinical psychologist and author, wrote a book a few years ago entitled Integrity. In it, he describes something he refers to as the wake. In all of our relationships, we leave behind a wake, much like a boat does. If you've been out on Lake McConaughey, water skiing or jet skiing, you've noticed that wake behind you. Coming from Southern California and having been quite a bit on the Pacific Ocean, I've seen those wakes as well. It's really quite fascinating to observe. But this is what he says. What kind of wake do we leave behind in our interactions with others? He puts it this way. Are a lot of the people out there water skiing on the wake smiling, having a great time for our having moved through their lives? Or are they out there bobbing for air, bleeding, and left wounded as shark bait? I can picture that one. In other words, would they say that their experience with us has left them better off for our having moved through their lives, or would they say it's left them worse off? Did they consider it a blessing that they were associated with you, or a curse? What is the nature of your wake? Are they smiling or reeling? Powerful words. They've certainly caused me to reflect upon my interactions with others. In conclusion, let me close with a quote by hockey legend Wayne Gretzky. He said, "You miss 100% of the shots you never take." So as you leave this graduation, as you commence to take your shots, remember to be bold, be creative, be optimistic, and most importantly, be mindful of others. Thank you.